Yes, Maimuna Mwidau is in studio. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very happy to be here again.
Yes.
I guess I've become a family.
You have become a family.
Yes.
It's good to have you here. Now,
Thank you.
we've seen a lot happening since last week.
Yeah.
So there's a statement that was released by the Catholic bishops. That is the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. They voiced their concerns about the state-sponsored campaign of abductions and forced disappearance and torture of persons linked to the youth-led anti-tax protest in June and July. All right. And of course, we saw this forced the president to withdraw the finance bill 2024, and he also disbanded the cabinet, right? And so that statement also termed the government to be perpetuating a culture of lies, you know. And after that, we also see a lot of some leaders from the Kenya Kwanza government also just come out to attack.
Yeah.
You know, they're not very gentle. I call them foot soldiers. You know, we will defend it, whether it's right, whether it's wrong. And it's been so fast because we see the president attending a church service together with the governor, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja, and we see donations, 5 million building the house of the priest, and then Sakaja also making a donation of 200,000 there, and him asking that, Kenyans should give the president time. Baadaye tena tu haraka tena, we're not accepting this money, we're giving it back. And then
Return to sender.
something that is unlikely, we don't see that happen. We see the leaders go to these churches, they make donations, zinachukuliwa, they use the pulpit as a space to campaign and just raise their issues, talk about their issues. Then now we're also seeing SEK supporting the statement that was made by the Catholic bishops, we're seeing a lot of church leaders. Now that's why Maimuna Mwidau is here. A lot is happening.
Yes.
And I keep on saying that the tide is changing. But why are we seeing the Catholic Church, or rather, the church take a strong stand this time?
That has been a very interesting debate lately, and I'm not surprised because the Catholic Church has been very active in societal matters, and this is not something that we should be surprised. They're already addressing a societal issue from a church perspective. Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with that. The mosque can do that. The Hindus can do that. The synagogues can come out and do that. So for religious leaders, they have certain moral authority to look into the issues of the society. Now, when they're addressing issues of abductions, the economy, the bad politics, poor leadership, these are all issues that affect society generally.
Yeah.
So it is from their perspective where they're saying, look, the government, you promised A, B, C, D, and you have not delivered, and we are having these problems in society.
Yeah.
Because majority of the people always go to church or mosque when they have problems, societal problems, emotional problems. You would go to your pastor, you'd go to your imam for prayers, you would go to any religious organization to seek support.
Yeah.
Sometimes they even go further and get support for medical health, education, basic needs in some areas. The church intervenes. And that is where the church gets its strength, because it works with the society on issues of faith. So when they are speaking, they are talking about experiences they have based on the congregations where they are sending the word of God. For instance, if they're working in some very rural areas and they can see the problems are water, they can see that the problems are insecurity, and they are the ones who have to come in and intervene, yet they are not the state. That is the job of the state. The state was elected democratically to serve the same society that the church is serving. So they have a mandate to provide for the citizens. And the church have their own mandate in terms of faith to get the society to live peacefully, in order, and get the services they deserve. So here we have two very different institutions with their own mandates, but the church always comes in where the state has failed. For instance, when the state is not able to provide education, you'll find the church building schools. Many churches have done that, and the Catholic Church has done exemplary.
Yeah.
If you remember the Loreto convents, even before the early years of independence, they were already there. You'd find that the church would be building water boreholes in certain areas. So the church has always been in between. There are no hospitals in certain places. The church builds clinics and hospitals everywhere. And many other religious organizations do that. They intervene. The Catholic Church, which is the largest in the country, seems to have taken the lead in providing services. So they feel obligated to stand up and speak on behalf of the congregations. And when they do that, by the way, they talk about the rest of Kenyans. They don't even say about our Catholic followers. They talk about society in general. And that is the reason why you find SCK now coming out and supporting that position, because they do have an interreligious council. Probably you'd find the imams coming in and supporting, because it is just broad-based. It's not just based for Catholics. It's for all faiths. So I'm so happy that they have come out very clearly and said, look, this enough is enough. Government needs to change. Unfortunately, the politics just responded without thinking.
Yeah. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
When they released the statement and then the ripple effect of that.
It was like a knee-jerk reaction. Without thinking, they responded. Because it was assumed this was targeted to the presidency. This was not targeted to the presidency. This was targeted to the government of the day. Could be anybody's government. Okay? And they could be addressing these issues differently. I remember I was listening to a discussion by Mheshimiwa Boss Shole, and she said, well, the church has an opportunity to go to State House. They should have done that, like using the protocols and what have you. But again, knowing our politics, what if they did not have access?
Yeah.
Maybe they did try quietly to go and address these issues. They did not have access. The only option was to have a press conference.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
But also,
And I'm sure the president had, because he responded.
why go to the state, Maimuna? They can call for a press conference. And why go to the state to address it?
Well, there are many ways of addressing it.
Yeah.
You could do a petition to the government through parliament. You could actually seek to meet with the president and address it directly. And if all fails, you just go and call a press conference and the whole world will hear. So those are just processes, of addressing the issue. But the response is what? And I'm glad that they have beaten a retreat, because everybody else was like, why are you responding in such a manner?
Yeah.
You should not look at it as this is an affront to the presidency. No, it's not. It's a faith-based institution concerned with the situation on the ground, and they're addressing it. Ideally, then whoever is responsible should have said, okay, we acknowledge this, and the government has been doing 1, 2, 3. We are trying, but we are not there yet. But we are trying. And yes, these are the problems we are trying to address. I know somebody else was saying, why couldn't they give us a solution? It's not their job. It's not their job of the religious organization to tell government what to do. The government needs to know what to do. Yeah.
Now, still on that, on the statement, there's a donation that was made by the president, by the governor, Nairobi governor, that is. Was this a way to silence the church or just stop it from criticizing the government?
That's an old trick in the current situation. Those are old strategies that were used many years. You go to church, you do a fundraiser, and then millions are collected. That's not the church way. Personally, I would look at it, you're buying the silence of the leaders in the church. The church way is, if you really want to contribute to church, go to Sunday Mass, pray, finish praying, and tithe the legal money that you owe. Just tithe. just that much. The church does not want the extra money. They don't know where it's coming from. Even God will not be pleased with you. So you tithe the way it's supposed to be and move on and go do harambe elsewhere. Okay? So it was in bad taste, I would say, because it came at the wrong time too. Why would you be wanting to build a bishop's house? The church has institutions that make money. Why would government want to do that? And that money, put it in Shif or Shah, the relevant places. If you really do have the money, put it where it matters.
Okay.
Don't give it to the church. They didn't ask for it. All they said, you're not doing a good job. Correct that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my opinion though.
Okay. So hapo Bi Maimuna umesema wrong timing.
Absolutely.
Hapo sasa ndo nataka ueleze hapo kwa yule msikilizaji kwamba hii ni wrong timing. Ingekuwa hatuko kwenye hii statement ya nini waite makasisi, right? Kama nitakuwa sijakosea, wa Catholic. Hawajatoa hii statement. Rais akaenda kule, akaenda akatoa huo mchango wa kujenga hiyo nyumba. Tungekuwa na hizi kelele za kwamba pesa irudishwe.
Pengine ingekuwa.
Okay.
Lakini uangalie tangu tumeona wakati wa Gen Z. Tumeona mabadiliko katika nchi. Kila kitu tunaangalia. Watu wa pesa kwa sababu gani? Kwa kitu gani cha muhimu ambacho kitasaidia jamii? Okay. Labda kama makasisi wamesema tuomba mchango kumjengea nyumba kasisi. Basi waumini ndo wangeanza kuchanga. Okay? Lakini sio mchango uje baada kumetokea malumbano ya maneno. Umeambiwa wewe huendeshi serikali vizuri, alafu tulete mchango. Haijakaa vizuri. Okay? Haijakaa vizuri. Na unapotoa mchango kwenye watu ambao michango yao ni shilingi 100, 2,000 hivyo, na wewe toa hivyo.
Okay.
Makanisa mangapi utaweza kuwapa milioni 5? Yamaanisha isikie pia ite mkutano au makusomea alafu waseme utawapelekea milioni 5 wajenge nao nyumba ya kasisi. Unajua haikai vizuri.
Okay. So kabla uje tulikuwa tunazungumza hapa, tulikuwa tukusengenya chini kidogo.
Nimezoea.
Na Miriam na Gona hapa na mimi. Kuna hii pressure ambayo tunaiona. Saizi ni miaka 2. Rais na serikali yake wako uongozini. Wanapambana. Hatutasema hawapambani. Wanang'ang'ana. Lakini uoni ni pressure ambayo kwamba wamepewa mapema mno, ambao wanatakana wafanye kazi kwa kasi zaidi kutimiza yale ambayo kwamba wamemwambia Mkenya. Lakini wanapewa pressure. Huku kuna viongozi wa kidini, huku kuna jenzizi, huku sijui kuna wazee, huku kila mahali pressure imezidi. Viongozi wengine wa kisiasa nao wanasema hivi. So is it too early kwa hii pressure ambayo kwamba tunaiona?
It's never too early. Unajua unapochukua uongozi ulikuwa umetoa sera yako. Na ahadi chungu nzima kwamba utaweza kwa muda wa miaka 5 kutekeleza mambo fulani. Kwa hiyo watu wanaangalia ile mambo ulioyaahidi, mbona miaka 2 bado hayajakuwa? Na kama hayajatekelezwa kamili, lakini yaonekane ngalau yako njiani. Pengine umeanzisha mfumo fulani wa elimu. Tumeona labda umeanzisha kama Shif na Shah ni authority though. Kama Shif ulisema utabadilisha from NHIF. Tumeona mabadiliko lakini yamekuwa na matatizo mengi.
Okay.
Sasa tuseme ile transition kutoka NHIF to Shif imekuwa na msukumo kwamba pengine ile transfer haikuwa na utaratibu mzuri ili siache wagonjwa hapa katikati wajulikani wako bado NHIF ama wako Shif. Umeona? Sasa hii pia ilikuwa ni ahadi. Imeanza kutekelezwa lakini imekumbana na matatizo mengi. Inamaanisha pengine wale walikuwa watekelezaji hawakuweza kuwa na mikakati ya vipi tutaweza kutransfer vizuri ndio hawa wagonjwa wasiwe na shida hapa katikati. Huo ni mfano mmoja. Mfano mwingine tulikuwa wazungumzia masuala ya nyumba za rahisi. Pia tumeona kuna sehemu kweli nyumba za jengwa, lakini sasa hakujulikani watakufadhilika ni vizuri ni kina nani, kwa namna gani. Ile mikakati nao pia bado haielewekani vizuri. Sasa umetoa ahadi, watu wakwambia utafanya lini? Kwa sababu tumekupa mandate ya miaka 5, hatukukupa mandate ya miaka 10, 5. Kwa hiyo miaka 5 lazima ungeweza kusema mimi labda naweza kutekeleza mambo 2 ama 3, ama naweza kutengeneza economy, uchumi, labda ukawa katika mahali ambapo mwananchi anaweza kujitafutia ajira, anaweza kuishi vizuri kwa kiwango fulani. Huwezi kusema tu mimi nitafikisha 100% hapa, 100% hapa, baada ya miaka 5 mambo yatakuwa mazuri. Haiwezekani.
Is, or rather the conversation we're having right now with Maimuna Mwidau is, what is the role of religious institutions in the society? We've seen what has been happening in the country, but we're also seeing religious institutions take a strong stand, and just call out the state. What is their role? Because the people who are saying keep off politics. But what exactly is their role?
Well, as I started, I said that religious institutions focus on society. They have a role to play in society. Equally, the state has a role to play in society. But their roles are two different. One is faith-based, that it's the religious institutions would guide the society, or as you call the flock, based on their faith. Now, whether you're Muslim, Christian, Hindu, you'll be guided based on your book. Yeah. And religion is about keeping society in a certain way, in terms of behavior, in terms of relating with each other. You talk about the values. There are values in your religious book that we as human beings need to do certain things. So you'll find every faith has a way of living in a certain way based on their religion. So that's the major role of religion, to guide the flock. Because assuming if we didn't have religion, we are just like human beings with no compass, moral compass or anything. We would keep killing each other all over. We would be doing those are laws to guide us into how we live. Okay? We talk about blind faith, because faith is blind. You have to believe that there is God, and that's it. You don't have to see it, but you just have to believe and behave appropriately. Okay? So that is the work of the religious organization, to keep us together, to keep us in peace, and maintain harmony.
Okay. But now, them getting into politics, is that also part of their role?
Religion is also politics. In certain states, the religion is the state. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
You have the smallest country in the world, Vatican. That's a state. It's a religious state. You have Saudi Arabia. It's a religious state. They follow the Islamic traditions. The Vatican follows the Catholic traditions. So there are certain states where religion is the constitution of that state. For instance, in Kenya, we have mixed. We bring religion into our constitution, where we believe that we believe in God. Okay? We even go for meetings and pray. Not every state does that. So religions do play a key role in Kenya. We are very traditional societies, quite conservative. Everything we do, we bring religion first. So the religious institutions, the reason why they have come up is because they've played a key role in supporting the efforts of the state. Where the state is not able to meet certain needs of the society, religion intervenes, or religious organizations intervenes. For instance, the state by law is supposed to provide education. They're not able to do that countrywide. You find churches building schools. Similarly with health, churches build hospitals. And now, because of their interference into this sphere or supporting the state, then they feel they have the moral authority to complain when certain things are not going right, especially in terms of policy. When government was pushing for the finance bill, they felt the need to complain because it was going to affect their flock, society in general. That if you have to do something, I mean, do it right. That is what they're trying to say. Just do it right so that it does not affect society. Because it becomes a problem when you have a flock that economically they cannot afford this or that. The burden most likely will fall towards the religious institutions. I think we briefly spoke about, let's say with there's famine somewhere, there's floods somewhere, there's drought somewhere. Most of the times you'd find the church is the first, because the congregation probably contributed and gave out to the society or the needy. So they have a critical role that they play, and it is very important that they are also able to call out on the state that something is wrong here. Okay. Can we try to adjust? Can we do things differently? Can you look into this? So when they criticize, I don't think it's because they have something personal against
the state.
The state. No. They're trying to correct or raise an alarm on what is happening in society.
Okay. Yeah. There's a question here. This is Ma. Ma, good morning.
Morning.
Anasema, my question is, whose fault is it that religion in Kenya is deeply intertwined with politics to the point where we are witnessing the current outburst? But also, what's the ideal relationship that should exist between politics and religion? And what can the country do to remedy this obnoxious situation we are in at the moment?
Wow. It's threefold, the question. I don't see a fault here. I when I view some issue, I don't look at the fault. I look at how this came about. Okay? And I've said that it came about because the state has not been able to meet the demands of society. So the complementarity of the state and the religious institutions, the religious institution felt the need to fill the gaps. So I don't see any fault there. If the religious institutions are able to provide some services and they are complemented by the support of the state, the beneficiary is the society. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay? And when the religious institutions come out and call out on the state, I don't have a problem with that either.
Do you think the state has fears the kind of influence that religious institutions might have on the flock?
Well, they may not, because the flock is the voter. The religious organization may be able to sway the flock into thinking differently. Okay? Once you get religious education, you are able to say that, oh, this is right and this is wrong. This is morally right according to my faith. And, you know, when you talk about corruption, I don't think any faith would support corruption, you know. So it's an awakening in a way, because religious education is education. What we are studying in school is a different type of education. So these are two different systems. But one is, as I said again, is based on faith. Faith is about believing into something. Yes. So once you're a believer, you're able also to see things differently. And say, okay, I believe in equality because we are going to be judged on that. And then here you see the state is not showing any signs of being equal to others, then of course you would say, this is wrong. This is, as human beings, we should not be doing A, B, C, D. And there's no fault in anybody doing that. All we are trying to do is adjust so the society can have a balanced kind of life. So everybody can access, everybody can be happy, everybody can be part and parcel of building the nation.
Okay. 0700-917-917. What question do you have? Let's talk. Good morning.
Good morning, Breakfast Club. When the Kenyan Anglican Church bishops first criticized President Ruto's government, many young people came out to ask why they were silent when the Gen Zs were being brutalized during the protest. And The one thing that I would like to ask Maimuna is what's the role of the church leaders when it comes to socioeconomic issues and governance? Why now?
Why now?
Why now? Because there has been a transition. I mean, a lot of people don't seem to understand that this whole Gen Z process, let's not take it lightly. There is a change. And this is not the first change, though, in this country. There is a change. There is a boldness that has come out of Kenyans through courtesy of the Gen Zs. This is a different generation that have made it very clear that we understand what is going on, we are not happy with it, and we are rallying against it. So that is a transition already. Then there's an awakening in society that we are able to mobilize ourselves and challenge the state. And indeed they did. And indeed we did get some sort of change and an awareness that you cannot do anything without being challenged. Because this is our country. These are laws going to be made to organize us. Now, why now? The church is coming out now. It's because the church also has those Gen Zs in church, in the mosque too. And they address them on a regular basis. So they need to acknowledge that congregation too and say, actually, there's nothing wrong with you guys going out there and demanding what is rightfully yours.
Yeah.
Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. This is a transition. It's a beautiful transition, I would say, because the younger generation are taking charge of their lives. Now, did the government respond positively? Yes and no. It did at some point, superficially, by changing some change in governance in terms of the cabinet. That is that government? No. Government is bigger than that. Government is about changing the whole attitude of how government is run, not changing individuals. You change Maimuna alone, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You have to change every single way government transacts. Why the church is coming out now? It has the strength now. It has the support. And it feels there's a need for them to speak with the younger generation. Maybe I can give you an example of what happened many years ago. If you remember the 7 bearded sisters in Parliament, those days, the Kinaurengos and all that, they were quite young that time. They were also fighting for change through Parliament. But they were labeled, they were beaten up, they were prisoned. So that's one of the changes too. At that time, it was a one-party state. But as a result of that, we got the repeal of Section 2A in the Constitution, which made Kenya a one-party state. Then we got multi-party state. So these are things that happen in different decades, and many more will come because we started off somewhere, and we are here today. And I expect this generation will grow to a certain extent. Their children may have a different transition. So this is positive. The church is also changing as we change. This is not the traditional church, Catholic church. I remember the traditional Catholic church. I had Christian friends I grew up with. So we used to go to church with them. We were all kids. So when they were going to church on Sunday, everybody looking pretty, and, we all went with them. But that was a strictly very conservative Catholic church. Maybe in the Vatican it was different. But in Kenya, it was purely church and nothing in between. But then again, I remember telling you guys, if you remember Bishop Muge those days and other bishops who were killed, some of them, they were activists. They came out strongly. So transition is not easy, but it's good, and we need to acknowledge it every time it happens and say, okay, this transition is about this issue. That we are not going to sit back, that the state puts laws that are not making sense to us, that are making the life difficult for us. Can you change it? Make it good enough for all of us to be able to survive.
Pengine mi niulize swali kwa sababu tumekuwa tukiangalia kwa mfano after the bishops wamepiana statement yao, tuliona Kindiki vile alivyo react na wale wengine vile walivyo react. Lakini pia baada ya pesa kutajwa kwamba zitaweza kuregeshwa, je, ni wakati ambao serikali sasa inafaa kujiangalia ama isonge vile ambavyo imekuwa ikifanya?
Swali zuri. Pesa zimeregeshwa.
Naam.
Unajua pesa kawaida ukipewa huregeshi. Na hizo tena ni nyingi. Kwa hiyo ukiona pesa zimeregeshwa, hilo ni jibu. Hilo ni jibu. Ni sawa sawa na mtu ukimwambia neno alafu akunyamazie kimya. Waswahili kwambia kimya kina mshindo. Sasa ile kuregesha pesa ni jibu kubwa sana. Kwanza hatutaki mchango wako. Hilo ni swali, ni jibu tayari. Bila ya kusema maneno mengi. Kwamba huu mchango wako hatutaki. Au msaada wako hatutaki. Na kuna sababu kwa nini ule msaada umeukataa. Kwa sababu tumekukosoa, alafu atupa mchango mkubwa namna hii, ndio tunyamaze, yani inamaanisha. Kwa mtu yote mwingine atasema huyu ametupa pesa, ndio tusiseme. Kwa sababu mkisema tena ataambia si mimi niliwapatia pesa. So unajua wanasiasa huwa hana adabu sana. Wanaweza kumjibu tu mtu akasema kwani si tuliwapatia pesa. Sasa mwapiga kelele za nini? Unaona? Sasa na hili ni jibu kwamba hatutaki pesa zenu na tutaendelea kuwakosoa. Kwa hiyo tayari serikali washaambiwa. Kwa hiyo nafikiri hii itakuwa ni funzo. Wakienda siku nyingine kwenye kanisa za wenyewe na wasikia wametoa pesa, itaregeshwa. Lakini watapata neno la kanisani. Wataambiwa maneno yao na watajua hawatatia mkono mfukoni wazitoe, kwa sababu wataregeshewa, na ni aibu kuregeshewa pesa mtu mzima. Unaelewa Yeah. Mtu mzima ukiregeshewa pesa hadharani kwanza ni aibu kubwa, kwa sababu kama nimekudharau, hiyo pesa haina thamani kwangu. Pengine thamani nzuri ingekuwa umetoa majibu mazuri. Kwamba makasisi tumesikia mliosema, na kweli hapa tumechelewa, hapa tumekosea, tutajaribu kurekebisha. Lakini majibu kwamba unajibu kwanza ufidhuli, alafu waniletea pesa kidogo, hapa mimi nitawapa hongera makanisa. Tena waendelee hivyo hivyo. Lakini wasikataze kama wataka kutoa tithe, sadaka. Njoo na pesa yako halali utoe sadaka. Hata kama una mabilioni nyumbani.
Ndio.
Njoo na pesa yako ya halali, kaombe siku ya Jumapili, kama ni Sabato ni Jumapili. Wewe uje utoe tithe ile ya kihalali ile mbele ya Mungu. Sidhani kama utaregeshewa. Sasa ukileta mkumbo wa pesa chungu nzima, na hapa shift unasikia watu wengine hawezi kufanywa hata transfusion. Peleka hospitali. Hilo ndio jibu nalowaza mimi, kwamba pengine utaambiwa kuna vitu matatizo yako mengi baba. Usituletee hapa. Ipelekee pale huduma inapotakikana, kama kweli wataka kubadilisha. Ama tungesikia tu kwamba milioni kadhaa zimechukuliwa zimepelekewa hospitali Turukana. Kama kulikuwa hakuna vitanda, madirisha, vitu vyovyote vile, kitu cha muhimu katika maisha, tungesema labda mmesikia yale tulikuwa tukilalamika. Lakini ukituletea sisi tuambie bishop wetu tumjengee nyumba, inamaanisha tufunge midomo. Na ni vizuri mabishop wote wamekataa. Na mtu yote mwingine akiletewa pia zikatae. Waambie tu nyinyi tengenezeni maisha ya watu, msituletee vipesa hapa. Na wakikataa hizo pesa namna hii wananchi wote, na hakika kura itapigwa vizuri. Sio bishop yeye ni mfano. Usiletewe shilingi 500 ukaambiwa mpigie so and so. Hii niendelee, isibaki pale kanisani.
Ndio.
Iendelee kwa kila mtu. Usikubali kununuliwa. Wakati wa kununuliwa ulikwisha. Wewe wataka haki yako. Kama ni kijana upate ajira. Kama ni hospitali iwepo. Kama ni elimu iwepo. Ukishatufanyia hivyo, maisha yetu kidogo tutaweza kujikimu. Ukipata education yako vizuri utaweza kujikimu. Ikiwa economy inaenda vizuri, watu wote wataweza kujikimu. Lakini sasa ukiwa utahonga mabishop hapa, kesho utakwenda honga madaktari pale, kesho kutu utakwenda honga sijui kina kotu kule, maisha yatakuwa mabaya, kwa sababu ni kama kutia band-aid kwenye kidonda. Badala kukisafisha, maana itakuwa uchungu. Wakitafutia plaster tu wakifunika
ili nzi wasikirambe,
kitaoza.
There's another question. 0700917917. What question do you have? Let's talk. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Ipti from Karama. Nilikuwa nauliza, do you believe the 5.6 million shilling donation from Ruto ilikuwa iko meant to silence the church from criticizing the government?
I think we already spoke about that.
That's a good question,
Yeah.
Ipti. Yes, you can think about it whichever way you want, but generally, it came at the wrong time. Ideally, maybe it should have come in as a contribution towards maybe a project in church, but not after you have been criticized and you responded back, and then you're going to give a contribution of 5.6 million. I think it came in at the wrong time and the wrong place.
All right. Kuna swali ingine hapa. Anasema, remember when Ruto was campaigning, he wore the, in quotes, God-fearing persona. And if my memory serves me well, many church leaders accommodated him on their pulpits. I think the church is being hypocritical for talking now when they technically endorsed him to the faithfuls who obviously voted. I think we should completely separate religion and politics. Anasema, that's his opinion.
Well, that's an opinion, and
Yeah.
we are all entitled to our own opinion.
Yes.
We are a free society. But generally, yes, he gave the impression that he was a churchgoer, he's a believer. And nobody can doubt that. Because in faith, you cannot judge. Okay? If I say I am a believer and I believe that I'm a believer, then nobody else has the moral authority to say I am not.
Okay.
Because it's a matter of faith. You cannot gauge that. And if he went to church seeking support and saying I'm a believer, then every believer would believe that. Let's give the benefit of the doubt. This is a God-fearing man and he might do the right thing because we are believers. Okay? Now, when the believer does not do right, that does not mean the church is wrong. It is not the church that made you to do the wrong things. It is you as an individual. And as a Muslim here, I know we are responsible for what the decisions we make before God. So if I go and lie and say I'm a believer and then other believers support me, they expect as a believer you'll do the right things.
Okay.
All right.
So that is the general feeling and understanding that I have.
Okay.
Okay. Your final, your parting shot, Maimuna.
I think we should not give up on our own religions and faith. Let's keep the faith and know the difference between our faith, our institutions, religious institutions, and the state. Once we know the role of the state and understand the role of the faith-based organizations or institutions, then we may be able to clearly see where we're to draw the line.
Yeah.
But if you're a person of faith, you never give up because God is also faithful. So a human being may not be able to deliver certain things. But if you have faith and continue to have faith, and I'm sure something positive will come out of it. Even a president is a human being. He cannot be perfect. So the rest you leave it up to God.
Yeah.
Yeah.